Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous, hosted by Bruce Hutchin. I'm so happy you've joined us today, and you're going to find out a lot about whitetail hunting on the show.
This is Whitetail Rendezvous, episode number 342.
On today's show, you're going to hear from Mike Grandstaff, the owner of Whitetail Stalker. Mike and Shelley Grandstaff started Whitetail Stalker a few years ago, and we're going to talk about its evolution and the growth of his pro staff. We're also going to get down and take apart his 2016 hunt, because sometimes it just doesn't all come together.
It's never too early to think about food plots. Whitetail Rendezvous has an ebook for you. Just simply text 33444 food plot to get your copy. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. We're heading to Iowa this morning, and we're going to meet with a good friend, Mike Grandstaff. He's the owner of Whitetail Stalker. Mike, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Bruce. It's a pleasure to be back on the show. I always like talking to you.
Yeah, and it's going to be a hoot with the show that we produced last week about you interviewing me. That's going to be fun. But we'll get some laughs out of that one.
That was pretty cool. First time I ever, hosted a podcast show, let alone the owner of the show. We're pretty good.
Yeah.
I think people are going to like it.
Yeah, we're having some fun, and that's what it's all about. Hey, let's start right off. You got a great story about your 2016 hunt, so let's just dive right into that and share what you're going to share.
Well, I guess the way I like to explain my 2016-2017 deer season is it was an epic year of failure. Okay, and that sounds weird, but that's what it is. But I learned a lot, and the one thing that I want people to take away from my misfortune is it can happen to anybody. Okay, so we started out the year pretty good. Shelley, she always goes out with me in early bow season. And, man, we've seen some brutes this year, just couldn't seal the deal. We had a perfect 10-pointer come in. I mean, he's just perfect. I mean, not a deduction on this guy. He's probably right at 150, and he's a 3.5-year-old. Couldn't get the deal done with him. So I sat down there in that stand and seen another real big 9 or 10, and he stood behind me 20 yards for over an hour, just standing there, because it's in a creek. It's a wooded creek line is what it is, and they travel that in the rut pretty heavy. And so we was real fortunate to see some really good bucks and got some great video of them. We could never seal the deal down there, and I'm hoping this year it's going to be a little different. It'll be corn in that area this year, so they'll be more frequent to stay in that little area down there. So moving on, I got another piece of property I hunt, and the previous year, I'd set up a ladder stand in this real hot spot, and I planted an Antler King food plot, which they devastated that before the season really even got, too hot and heavy. So, but they were still, going through that area, and I made a video, and I said I'd like to take a buck out of that food plot. But the bad thing is that they ate all the food up before the rut really even started. So it was probably, too small for the area and the amount of deer, travel in that area. So I set up in that ladder stand I put up in there, and I knew there'd be deer in the area. And the first misfortunate thing to happen was I was watching a doe behind me. She slipped in behind me out of a thicket. So I got my neck cranked all the way to the right, looking behind me. This is in the afternoon during rut, and I'm sitting there watching her. We're just staring at each other, but she couldn't really tell what I was. That trees and camo was unbelievable camo. And I never did get busted once this year. And so I'm just sitting there watching, and out of the corner of my left eye, I see this buck come out of the thicket that she was in, but he had his attention on another doe that was down the hill in the woods. And so I swung around, and mind you, this is bow season, and I tried a new camera setup on my bow. I put it on my stabilizer, and it was just a little handy cam. I wanted something light quick. I could just get into the tree stand and not have to set up a camera arm and this and that. Well, I thought it was a really good idea at the time, but as I caught movement of that buck, all I seen was a big G2 tine, and I knew it was a shooter. I didn't know which buck it was that was in the area, but I knew he was a shooter. So I hurry up, I turn around, I flip open the camera, I turn it on, and I draw back on him, and he's about 35 yards away, and I drill him right in the pump house. At least I thought I did anyway. But I think actually what happened is I hit him just a little too far back, and I seen him run off with the arrow stuck in him, and so I'm watching through the woods, and then I see where he went, and to make a long story short, I hurried up and I checked my camera to check the footage to see what kind of hit it was. And lo and behold, I couldn't find the video. And I thought, well, maybe I double punched the record button. And, well, I couldn't find it. So I didn't even go look for blood or anything. I knew where he went. So I came home. I hooked up my camera to the TV, looked through all the video footage. I couldn't find that video footage anywhere. So anyway, I gathered up the troops, and we go back out there about 3 or 4 hours later and get on the blood trail, and lo and behold, we tracked that joker for 600 yards, and that was the last. We found one spot of blood. He was clear across a big bean field, went into this public land, thick and gnarly as all get out. Never found another spot of blood in there. We never did find him. So let's fast forward to probably, what was it, next weekend. I'm sitting in the same tree stand, and the rut's still going on real hot and heavy, and middle of the afternoon, and I get on my Jack's Mountain Custom called grunt tube, and I let a few grunts out, and all of a sudden I see this buck probably 150 yards through the woods down at the bottom, and he perks up, and he's coming up through the woods, and I have plenty of time to video, so I got all kinds of video of this joker. And well, he makes his way all the way up to that thicket that I was just talking about earlier, and he's standing there about 25 yards from me. And I didn't know if he was going to come down the trail that was right in front of the tree stand, like 5 yards, or if he's going to cut to the right. And then as soon as I was thinking that, he started heading down the trail that was to the right of me, which is about 25 yards. And then I go to pull back on him, and I was just in a weird, awkward position, turning to the right in a little ladder stand. And I had it at full draw, and I just couldn't get comfortable. So I let off of it, and of course he stopped behind a tree anyway, so it was perfect timing. And I readjusted myself, and he was coming to an opening out from behind a tree, and I got full draw again. And of course, I had the same camera set up on my stabilizer, but little did I know the camera had actually tilted backwards, so it was pointing up in the air. So when I wasn't looking in the camera, I did not realize that he wasn't in frame. So there's another bad thing, misfortune right there. So I let him have it, and I drilled him right in the shoulder. Just thumped him. I mean, it's solid, good hit. He takes off through the brush, and he goes back to where he came from. So he's going away from me now, and I'm watching him through the woods, and, until I couldn't see him anymore. Same scenario, I can do my little video edit right there in the tree stand, all excited. I thumped him good, he wasn't the biggest buck, but it was a buck I wanted to take out of the herd right there, and that, because I know every single buck in that area, at least I think I do. That more about that later. So he runs off. I get down. I didn't even bother looking for blood. I knew exactly where, I hit him. And we waited on this guy probably 6 hours to even go look for him, because we didn't want to push him, and we were kind of thinking maybe we got on that other one too early, and it just kept pushing him. So I go home. I get the troops. They all come up to the house. We go down there to the property, and I tell them exactly where I, shot the deer, and we're looking around for blood, and we didn't find any blood probably for 50 yards, okay? So that tells me it was kind of a higher shoulder shot, but it did hit a lung. But anyway, we picked up blood. It was dark out. We had our outdoor Pro Gear headlamps on. Those are about the brightest things I've ever used for tracking deer at night. You can't miss the blood. If it's on the ground, you're going to see it. So we get on his trail 50 yards from when I shot him, and we tracked that guy another 600 yards at least, and he went down to the big creek down at the bottom of this one property, and he just disappeared. We couldn't find anything anywhere, and so that's 2 deer in 2 weekends that I couldn't find, and I thumped them both. I mean, there was one spot in the woods that we came across. I mean, Bruce, I'm telling you, it looked like somebody was painting the floor red, as much blood as he was losing. And that's so discouraging to a bow hunter to see all the great sign. We found where he pulled the arrow all the way through. I mean, I don't know what else you could ask for. So, we took the arrow and everything, but we've tracked him as far as we could. My buddy, the next day, I was telling him about it, and the next day he went over there in the daytime and looked, and he couldn't find nothing. And I am 100% sure both of those deer have expired by now. So, it was a pretty dismal point. I was pretty down, as a hunter, as a sportsman. I got a video coming out for everybody to watch, and I explain and talk about what I'm talking about right now. But I want everybody to know that, if stuff like this hasn't happened to you, then you haven't hunted long enough. Because as a bow hunter, there's guys out there saying, I've never lost a deer to, with a bow and this and that. And it's like, well, maybe you haven't, but, it's probably going to happen, sooner or later. To be misfortunate enough to have 2 weekends in a row that happened, that'd get a guy down, as a hunter and a sportsman, that'll get you down real quick. And I mean, all you can do is aim the best you can and shoot the best you can. And, I don't know. It's just one of them things where, how do you even explain it? You're a good enough shot, and you are. You practice all summer, and you see the arrow hit them, and to not find them, it'll bring you down. But I'm a human being too, so it happens. So let's fast forward into muzzleloader season, because bow season just kind of fizzled out, and never really got another chance at a decent one. So muzzleloader season comes around. January, what was that? Can't remember the day on that. The 6th of January. I'm off on Friday, so I've made plans, to be off and hunt that day. So I get out there, and it's -1 degrees. It's got about 3-mile-an-hour wind in my face on a new property that I haven't hunted all year. And there had been a guy hunting on the north side of it. And there's a couple of different guys hunting on the north side of this little property, but it's all joined. The only thing separates is a property line fence. So I don't even got a tree stand in this east part of this woods. My whole game plan was to park at the house, walk in there, and find a spot to sit down on the side of this hill. Of course, nothing ever works out like you plan. You can play it over and over in your head. But I parked there at the house. I walked down the mowed trail through the weeds that they had, but it came up to a dead end, and I didn't know that. Had to back out, go back up the trail, and then got down another trail, and it was a dead end too. I was like, well, screw this. I got to get in there and get set down, okay? Because my whole theory is there's going to be a big buck come down there and bed in this real big thicket down in this draw. So I have to walk all the way around these weeds, out into the cornfield, walk the tree line, and then finally I was on top of this little hill that goes down into the woods, and right where I wanted to be. But I get down in there, and I sit down beside this tree, and I got my camera with me, and, my muzzleloader, and I sit down 2 hours before the sun ever even thought about coming up. And so I'm sitting there, toasty warm in my Shiver Shield jacket. I mean, they're not even a sponsor of mine, but I'm telling you, that's the warmest thing you could ever wear. You wear a T-shirt underneath it, put this jacket on, and I wear my treason camo over the top of it just to have camo, because it's a black jacket. But it is the warmest thing in the world. So I'm sitting there for 2 hours, loving the nature, man. It was beautiful out. The stars were out, and hearing the owls hooting, and you can hear deer walking around. You can't see them, but you can hear them, and you have an idea where they're at. So I'm thinking, well, once it gets light, I'm hoping these deer show up, so I can see them. And I think there's probably 3 or 4 of them that end up walking around me, that I could hear them. And the wind was great in my favor. It was right in my face from the northwest. And I'm looking to the northwest and to the west down in this draw. So it gets light, and, just picture perfect morning. And I just happened to look over on the other side of this draw, coming down the hill, was this buck, just a real pretty 10. He was far enough away I couldn't exactly tell what he was. I just knew he had a big enough rack for me to shoot. So I go to flip the camera on. Of course, Mother Nature, plays a little trick on me there. My camera wouldn't even function. It was so cold. So I was like, well, it's either now or never, and that's just one of the things us videographers out in the woods face. Mother Nature. Either it could be humidity, takes your camera, it could be cold, freeze it up. Things happen. I've had it happen. So I went ahead and took the shot. And of course, it's a muzzleloader. The smoke clears, and I can't see him, but I hear him over there. He's fighting it, and he's kicking and just making a thrashing noise over there. So I know he's hit. And my muzzleloader, it's just a tack driving machine anyway. I don't think I've messed with my muzzleloader in I don't know how many years. So I'm 100% sure he's down underground, just thrashing and everything. I couldn't see him. So I turned my attention back to my camera to see if I can at least get something on video, and sure enough, it turns on. It's having a little bit of a hard time focusing, and then it finally focuses, and then I, do a little presentation into it and tell everybody, what happened, why I couldn't get it on film. So, I wait probably half hour, 45 minutes, and then I decide to go ahead and go over there, make my way through the woods, and, we had, I can't remember, it was just cold. I mean, I can't remember if there was snow. I don't think there was any snow at all, but I get over there in the area, and I'm looking around. I was like, man, where's he at? Where's he at? And I look over to my left, about 8 yards away from me. There he lays. He had his legs tucked up under the tree. And he was a nice buck, very nice buck. Very happy to have taken him, and I thank the Lord for that. So, and then you go into try and get some video of that, and I did a little presentation, do your pictures and everything else. And of course, I'm, taking all this by myself, doing the solo thing. So, come to find out, I don't know where this buck come from. All the cameras I got set up, he was never on any of the cameras. So, just when you think you're going to get something that you've been watching all summer, that doesn't always happen out here in Iowa, because when you got the shotgun season, come along, people just push deer into new properties all over the place. So, your chances of shooting a booner out here is pretty good in late season muzzleloader, because you just never know what's being pushed around. But, I mean, that was I had to wait till muzzleloader season to actually put one down, but shot a total of 3 bucks in this whole area, which the disheartening thing to me is, I mean, like I told you before this, we have like a 4-to-1 buck to doe ratio out here, so I mean, it's just anywhere I hunt, it's like 4-to-1, and I can't shoot a doe. I can't bring myself to shoot a doe because there's just not enough of them. And I know these guys around here, they'll shoot anything that's, walking. So I held off on shooting a doe this year, and it just so happens I shoot a buck that I've never seen before. So what I want people to take away from this is, it never feels good to shoot deer and never find them. But, it was a crappy year, but it turned out to be, the end of the season was great, so you got to persevere and keep at it, and don't let things like that get you down. There's a lot of people that might browbeat you, but as I explained in the video, ain't nobody going to browbeat me more than I will myself, at the end of the day, it's my fault, and I'll take 100% of the blame, about my season, because nobody else was out there pulling that trigger. That was just me, so, it happens, and, don't let it get you down, and don't let people get you down, that want to browbeat you about things like that. So, that's basically it in a nutshell. My epic failure season, had a little bright spot at the end, and, that's just my season. So,
in the warm-up, I asked you, what's the one big thing that makes you a good hunter, and you just alluded to it. So let's talk about that and unpack that. But before we do, I want to give a shout-out to Shelly Grandstaff, and Shelly's in a personal transformation, and it's just fantastic. And Shelly, well done.
Oh, yeah. Well, just like perseverance, it's a big word, but it means so much. And to see the perseverance that she has doing the beach body workouts and transforming into a healthier, happier individual, it's pretty astounding to be a part of, getting to witness somebody see that, or see someone do that. Kudos to her in what she's doing. She's a great wife and a great mom, a great hunter. So it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, that's a great thing. And I love our budding relationship with Whitetail Stalker. We're doing some social media leverage. And if you don't know what that is, email me at whitetailrendezvous@gmail.com. Let's go and talk about Whitetail Stalker and its evolution.
Well, as you know, I think we started out Good grief. September 4th, 2014. I think we had like about 10 people, and man, I'll tell you what, having a hunting team for people that don't know is a lot of work, but it's a passionate kind of work that, you love doing. But the key to having a good, successful team is having the team members, the pro staff on your team, share in the passion to make, like Whitetail Stalker, what it is, As I've evolved with this company, I used to do a lot of it by myself, and then I'd have the pro staff just, the goal was, go out and hunt, video your hunts, and then promote, Whitetail Stalker on social media. But as you evolve, you get into things like, partnering with Whitetail Rendezvous in the leverage partnership. That's something new we're working on, and that's business stuff. That's, some of that stuff is out of my comfort zone, but you learn to adapt and learn to do those things to make yourself successful, and, you're leveraging partners. But then you get into, doing decals, doing clothes, promoting on every single social media site you can, having a YouTube channel, we're doing that. We did a stint on the Pursuit channel on Generation X. That was exciting. That was fun, doing the TV thing. But I mean, it can grow from a seed, to a full-blown plant. It's how I kind of look at this team. I mean, we've restructured the way we run our team this year as opposed to last year. We've taken our partners or sponsors from about 15 or 16 down to just a handful, and the whole idea behind that is to actually be able to really concentrate on the few that we have, and we can really work hard at promoting them in a way that we never did before, because we were so spread out with so many partners. It was just hard to promote them, even with that many guys. It's hard to get everybody on the team to jump on and do everything that needs to be done. So what we did is we got more people on the team. We have less partners this year, and now we can promote just the heck out of them, and they get more out of it from Whitetail Stalker than they ever did in the past. And I got people on the team that have individual responsibilities on the social media aspect of it. I got one lady doing the Twitter. I got one lady doing the Instagram. I got a lady doing some clothes and decals for us, and that's evolving, that's growing to a point where we'll probably end up just having her do everything, with the clothes line, having a web store set up and stuff. Right now, I got different vendors out there doing clothes and decals and this and that, but we're going to, transform that all and condense it into one person, so it'll be in-house. There's just so many aspects of it, just even being on social media, talking to everybody on, just like Flying Air Archery's pro staff, being a part of that. It's a family where, and treason is the same way. It's a family, the tribe. You get on there, you talk to each other, you learn things, whether it be, camera skills, social media skills, different avenues of business that you can, relate to some of the people with, help them or they help you. That's a never-ending task of running a team, and like I've told you in the past, Bruce, is there's a lot of teams out there, but, in the long run, you have to build yourself up to make the long haul. You just can't, some guys just rush right into it and boom, they're done in a year. They don't want no more of it. And you have to be passionate about keeping a strong base in your team. And there's so many different layers that you have to make solid, for this to last, a long time. And that's where we're at right now. So we're constantly, coming up with new things. We're constantly trying to build our brand. Whitetail Stalker and Turkey Stalker is the sister company to Whitetail Stalker. Like you and I've talked before, it's a second job, and it takes up a lot of time. Just like this morning, I got up at 6 o'clock, and probably from 7 o'clock till 10 o'clock, I've been solidly, working with the team on different things. And I just feel like we're getting stronger and stronger every year, more solid, and I don't know what the future holds. The only only God does. But I think 2017 is starting out real good for Whitetail Stalker, and so hopefully you get to see, more positive things. You just have to watch us evolve is all I can say.
Thanks for sharing that. And one more question. We got 3 or 4 minutes to go, and then we'll wrap the show and you'll get some shout outs. But let's talk about the hunting community, how it's changed, and what you said earlier in the warm up about a generational gap. So give us a few minutes on that.
Yeah, that's a weird thing for me personally. To know some of the big hunting celebrities out there, like Bob Fulcrod, Bill Jordan, man, the list goes on and on. Well, like I was telling you, I know some guys, the younger guys. I got some younger guys on my team. They don't even know these people, and to me, it's like, what, are you kidding me? You don't know these guys? And then it dawns on me, hey, I'm not young anymore, 45 years old. But these guys that are 18 to maybe 22, somewhere around in there, that whole generational gap of, I got to tell myself, these guys, they're missing out on all these guys that we grew up with. Who are they looking up to in the hunting world? Do they pay attention to the hunting world like I did, to know all these people, in the hunting industry? Those guys are still in the hunting industry, but it just took me back kind of that some of these guys, they didn't know who, these people were. And I thought it was kind of weird. But I'm hoping that does not translate into losing the hunting heritage that we all, come to love and cherish in my own right, I guess. And I don't know, it'd be weird not having these guys, as people to look up to in the industry. So it kind of begs the question, the younger generation, who are they looking up to, in the hunting world? And I don't know the answer to that. Some of them, I don't know. That's just something, maybe we'll have to get a younger guest on the show and ask them about that. Who do they look up to? So
good thought. Then I like that thought. So let's make that happen. We're at the time of the show, Mike. You give some shout outs, and I know you got a lot of people on your crew, so you get about a minute or two to do the best you can.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Bruce. I think one of the biggest shout outs I can give is, God, for letting us do this. Shelly, she's supportive of Whitetail Stalker, always has been. She's a member. But everybody on the team, they make Whitetail Stalker what it is. I might be the leader, the guy calling the shots, but, when you get these guys being as passionate as they do, you don't have to tell them much. They just go out and do it because they love Whitetail Stalker. We love the partners that we're with this year. Choosing camo, some of the best camo that's being made right now. Flying Arrow Archery and the Toxic Broadhead and the Cyclone Broadhead. They got the Tom Bomb for the turkey lovers out there. Jack's Mountain Custom Calls, people want some really quality made, American made calls. Jack's Mountain Custom Calls with Marty Byler is a way to go to that. Seal One cleaning products for your bow and your guns. Seal One, LLC. Find them on Facebook. Outdoor Pro Gear. I was talking about that headlamp earlier. Man, if you have not ever had a good headlamp, get yourself an Outdoor Pro Gear headlamp. I get nothing back from telling you this. It's just a great headlamp. It'll turn the darkness into daylight, guaranteed. So if you're tracking that animal, that is the best headlamp, in my opinion, that I've ever used. I'm going to give a shout out to Bruce Hudson, the host of Whitetail Rendezvous, and Bob Lord for all the hard work that they put in with, leveraging their partnership with Whitetail Stalker and everything that we're going to be doing this year. I think it's going to be pretty exciting to see where it leads. Thank you very much for that, Bruce and Bob. But I guess another shout out would be to all the people listening to the shows. You have over 100,000 downloads of these podcasts, and so that tells you you're doing the right thing, Bruce, and keep up the good work, you and Bob, and keep it coming.
Thanks for that, Mike. So on behalf of Whitetail Rendezvous across North America, and we got some veterans and Harm's Way that tune in every once in a while, so we're global. And having said that, Mike Grandstaff, owner of Whitetail Stalker, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show, and I look forward to having some of your team members in the weeks to come.
Well, thank you, Bruce, and it's always a pleasure to be on the show. Thank you.
On our next show, we're going to visit with Jay Link. Jay is the owner of Link's Wild Safaris. And most recently, Jay won a very prestigious award from the Safari Club. It's called the Pantheon. Only 11 people in the world have this. And Jay's going to talk about what it took to reach this level in hunting across the globe. He also is going to take apart, so you want to go to Saskatchewan? Here's what you need to know. And one more thing about Jay, he loves giving back. So there's a whole segment of the show about how he helps youth or other people with terminal illness enjoy the outdoors.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.